Stop chasing, start commanding. How Mason VanMeter is redefining insurance sales with mass market trust. Welcome to the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast.
We're your hosts, David and Al Denning.
What happens when a millennial couple dives headfirst into the insurance world, scales $1 million remote business, and decides to share the journey with the world?
You get the Modern Insurance Agent.
Here, we reveal the messy, magical, and sometimes hilarious realities of building a business and a life you love.
From traveling the globe to building remote teams. Yes, even working remotely on top of a mountain in the Philippines. We're sharing insights, strategies, and plenty of laughs to help agents and entrepreneurs succeed.
Because, let's face it, success isn't just about hitting numbers.
It's about designing a life that works for you.
So let's dive in and build something extraordinary together. Welcome back to the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast. Today's guest is Mason VanMeter, an insurance disruptor who doesn't just teach agents how to sell, he shows them how to command market trust and dominate with mass presentations. But before we dive in, you can get all the resources, all the show notes, all the goodies we put together for you, as well as how to connect with our guest if you go to jumpstartgonow.com/podcast. We got it all there for you. But as we hop in, just this year alone, and don't correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's right, our guest, Mason VanMeter, has helped an agent generate over $600,000 in commissions in just months, as well as sold 713 policies in a single 90-minute presentation. If you're still cold calling or relying on scripts, get ready to have your mind blown. Let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Mason.
What's up, man?
What's up, man? I'm excited to chat with you today, especially around, I feel like something not agents haven't really done or don't really do, especially in getting in front of a lot of people at a time versus the one-on-one. And so I would love to hear, like, how did you land on mass market presentation as in that model?
Well, when you look at the sales process, it takes the same amount of energy to sell to one person as it does to 1 million. So why not? I don't know. It's just common sense to me when I break it down for people. They're like, but yeah, what about if their names are different? It's like what? Makes no sense. You're asking the wrong questions out of sequence. You're focused on the right thing in the wrong time, which makes it the wrong thing. So,
and with that, like, what are, besides the names being different, what are some of the main, like, probably untrue, like, concerns or like reasons why agents wouldn't do that, right? I mean, like, it makes sense, absolutely, but why has it not been adopted before?
Well, this is an important principle I live by. It's far more important how you feel about information than the information in and of itself. And so there's a script, right, that pilots use to take off on airplanes. You ever saw what the script looks like? It's the same script for every pilot. They check it off and say, okay, fire up the APU, the auxiliary power unit. David, if I give you that script, even though it's exactly what other pilots use to fly that plane, how comfortable are you flying that plane with that script? Probably not.
We're going down. We're going down.
Why is that? So how you feel about the script based on experience and depth. Experience is a part of information. And so simply how you feel about it is going to dictate a lot. If I give a sales script to a introvert who is terrified of human interactions, I don't care if it's the best script in the world, it's never going to work. They will fumble their way through it. So how you feel about the information is more important than the information in and of itself. Simply because most people think sales is taking something from somebody. And you can argue that, sure. But if I go outside in nature and I take a blade of grass, how many grow back? 2. If I take an apple from a tree, I bite into it, and I put the seed into the ground, does one apple grow back or a whole tree grow back? And so it's abundant and extremely wasteful. 900 of those 1,000 apples on that tree will fall and rot. And guess what? Nature says, don't care, gonna grow some more because I'm a bad you know what. All right? And so because they think they're going to be not even a taker, but because here's the funny thing about humans, we care about what other people think. And it's not even what we think, it's what we think they're thinking, which is really what we think about ourselves. If I think that you think that I'm going to be a taker because I sell you a policy, I'm going to say I'm a taker. And that scares a lot of people off, or they think, who should listen to little old me?
Mm.
And so it's a lot of how they feel truly about themselves that stops them, and it blocks their own blessings. They bite the own hand. They bite the hand that feeds them, and it's very sad. It's very sad because these are people full of potential, but they've been taught their whole life, you'd better or else. And they think the moment they step outside that comfort zone, because they remember they spilled a glass of milk and they broke the glass, and mommy and daddy smacked them, and so every time they went and tried something new, they thought they were going to get punished. So a lot of this comes from compulsive habit patterns. All my people pleasers out there, you'd better or else. It's conditional love. Conditional love. So a lot of this is very ingrained into it.
I love these topics. These aren't topics we get to dive into a lot, but it affects everything in human behavior. And I know that's a passion of yours. I know it's what you teach. I know what you study. I know it influences everything. And honestly, it's what agents and marketers, everybody should be studying and learn this, because once again, it's human behavior. It affects everything there. And I love talking about the mindset, and everything's won and lost up there, but the mindset of abundance versus scarcity, which I think a lot of agents have that feeling and do miss out on opportunities, or even stuff like referral relationships and all these things, because it's all like, hey, everybody's my competition or out here, or if I win, someone else's loses, right? And so it's not a zero sum game, right? So I love that. And we talk about trust a lot. I mean, that's obviously a huge thing you discuss. What made you realize trust, not sales tactics, was the problem?
Simply I noticed that I had a friend back in the day who would not do what was in his own best interest. And he really looked up to, who was it that he was listening? He would not go and talk to girls for scared to death of just approaching a woman or a man's necessary counterparts. And it's like, dude, just go talk to her. I know the girl. She likes you. And he's like, yeah, but what if I say, but what if I don't, you're making things up. Anything you tell yourself about a future outcome, you made it up. I don't know who taught you that, but you made it up. And the moment I taught him, I didn't teach him anything. He really liked Tony Robbins. I'm sure everyone knows who he is. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, Tony Robbins said this is how you go up and talk to a pretty... And now it was no longer me telling him, it was Tony Robbins telling him. And so simply because he trusts Tony Robbins more than his best friend, he went and did it. I was like, interesting. Very interesting. I look at things like Dave Ramsey. Why is he able to outsell most insurance agents with one commercial, with one ad on his YouTube show or whatever the heck it's called? It's because his audience trusts him. And the moment I started applying this, I stopped selling myself. I didn't have to go join one-on-one sales calls all the time, and I could get other people to pitch me to their audiences, because now I'm leveraging trust from someone else. It's so much more efficient. It's a fast track. For me to sit there and think I'm going to go spend my whole life building an audience, it's farce. It's an utter farce. It's pointless.
So instead of building the trust from scratch, from the most heavy and intensive start, is the transfer of trust and authority from someone they already have that with to you, and the power behind that, which makes a lot of sense. And honestly, it's something agents should be leveraging a lot more, as they always like to play the hardest game of try to get someone on the phone and try to start from scratch, right? So and following that line of trust and kind of the current age that we're in, you talk about a trust recession. And can you explain a little bit what you mean by that in particular?
Well, if you look at how most parenting is done today, they tell you that don't trust strangers, salespeople are evil, and you're never going to want to be good at something you deem as bad, because that would make you a bad person in your eyes, because mommy and daddy are the two they're like gods to you when you're a child. When you're 0 to 3, you think mommy and daddy are God, and you want to be just like them. But the trust recession is interesting, because if you look at, there's a comic, you're familiar with Snoopy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They have this comic strip called Peanuts, and it's where Lucy she got a brand new football, and she goes, Snoopy, come kick this. I'll hold this football, and you're going to come kick it. And he goes, Heck no, Lucy. You're going to pull that thing away from me and I'm going to slip. I'm going to embarrass myself. And she goes, no, I'm not. I promise. And she holds the football. He runs up to kick it and she yanks it away from him last moment. He goes, what the heck, Lucy? He goes, well, Charlie Brown, I saw you had dirt on your shoes and I didn't want it to get on my new football. And so that's most people's experience of life. If you look at it, they have a wantingness to believe that someone's actually going to hold the football. But every time they reinforce that belief by using a behavior of following through, someone takes it away. And it's very sad. The moment you go to do something, someone takes the football away from you. And so you're selling at a deficit already. Before you sell the policy, you must first sell them on overcoming resistance and skepticism that they can even believe what you're saying. Because the whole time you're talking, they're thinking, why in hell should I listen to this person? And to answer that question for you watching this podcast right now, name me one other insurance agent in this industry who sold 713 policies in a matter of 90 minutes. Name one.
I got none. Just you. And so with that, I mean, logic we know is not really the key decision-making factor behind a sale. And so, but how do you think emotion and about emotion and identity when it comes to like insurance marketing, and really connecting and getting in front of these people and then realizing what's importance in us, like how does emotion identity play into that a bit?
Well, I go back into things like sociology. I've read a lot of Richard Dawkins' books like The Selfish Gene. I read a lot of old biology and sociology books. People talk about psychology to me all the time. Like, yeah, that's cute, but what influence is that? And they can never give me an answer. And it's biology and sociology. And so there's a book Jason Fladlin wrote called One to Many. I'm writing a book right now called Many to One. And it's about sociological selling, which is very fascinating because if you look at this, men typically do things from one lens and women typically do things from another lens, completely opposite. And the biggest mistake most men make when selling to women, which make up 85% of the economy, so you should probably focus on your powerhouse customer because they'll guilt trip their men into getting insurance or whatever you want to sell them. Women buy for security to feel safe. Men will buy because of how others are going to perceive them. Status. It's how we reproduce. Everything we do in this life is to reproduce. We accumulate enough resources. We live long. Women have to live long enough to reproduce, and men have to become important enough to reproduce. So when I'm selling to men, it's here's how other men are going to look at you. Here's how women are going to want to throw themselves at you. And by not doing the things you already know you should be doing, like we all dudes feel bad when we know we should have mowed the yard and we didn't. So guilt is the main driver for men. When it comes to women, if we put them in situations that make them feel unsafe, we pull their shame cords. How do I know this? Go look at any makeup company and how they advertise, or any store. You walk into the Victoria's Secrets, it's a mirror, the product, and a mannequin. The woman looks at the mirror. She goes, huh. She looks at the mannequin. The mannequin's beautiful. She goes, huh. I don't even look a tenth as good as her. Maybe if I bought the makeup, I'd look half as good. So they buy the makeup. It's a forced comparison. They're very visual creatures. And so these are the things that I'm working on behind the scenes. How do I install beliefs to get them to see that stuff? Because humans do everything for one reason and one reason only. It's because they feel like it. That is it. When you're selling a policy, you're giving them a feeling of what it's going to be like to be a protector and a provider for their family or give their family security if they're a woman. When you're doing mass market, you have to encompass both. But what you do is you give them that feeling and then you take it away. You say, David, you haven't earned this feeling yet. You don't get to keep it. You only get to keep the feeling when you buy the policy. So you give them the feeling and they pay to keep it. Just like when you go buy a new car for reliable transportation. Your last car got you around just fine. You just wanted novelty. You wanted everyone else on your street got a Tesla, so now you need a Tesla. Because what does that say about you? The only one who doesn't have their grass cut so low, it's not green, it doesn't have lawn lights, you're the only one. We have this fear of missing out. This is where I love how sociology plays into this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you give them a rational story. I see so many agents do so many sales, but they pay that money right back to the carrier who gave it to them. And they get all their dollars with their left hand and they pay them all right back with their right. It's ridiculous because they don't justify. After emotional decision, you must rationalize in the customer's head. People are not logical. We do what we feel like doing, and then we tell ourselves a story about why we did it. It's very simple.
You actually posted about that, I feel like a day or a couple days ago, and how that was having to pay every dollar back the agents make as far as when it comes to chargebacks or lapses because of that exact situation. Is that right?
Part of it, absolutely. Or they sold on logic and they tried to justify with
Mm.
emotion. You. That's not how nature works. It's not how nature
Mm.
works.
How much does NLP play into kind of any of the concepts or what you've kind of formed as your process or what you teach at all? Is NLP something studied, apply at all?
Every day, with every sentence.
Yeah.
Because what you dwell upon grows. Agents will come to me and say, Mason, I'm broke. It's like, how long have you been thinking about lack? I can immediately tell what's going on people's minds simply by the words they use, because they're reflections of their internal representation. The brain downloads 11 to 13 million bits of information per second. It filters, and we're great deletion creatures. We delete most of it because we can't do anything with most of that information coming in every second. It generates a picture in our head, and based on what we're looking for, if we're looking for lack, you'll find it. If you're looking for opportunity, it's equally available. If you look at Adam and Eve, every and freely is what God told them about the trees, except the one. They had to walk past all that abundance to get to the one thing they lacked. That doesn't show you a fundamental truth about human nature. You're misreading. You read what it said, but you're not hearing what it's saying, my dear friend. So I like to hear the stories and the whispers in the wind and all that. But NLP is a huge part of this. And then based on that picture in our head, it creates a feeling in our hands. It's all physiology. So how you view what you do, as Inky Johnson says, dictates how you do what you do. If you feel good about selling insurance, you'll have a fantastic time. If all my people pleasers out there understood that, they'd already be rich. But because they think they're taking from somebody, they don't want to support that behavior, because what does that say about them? So NLP is a huge part. It comes from two guys named Richard Bandler and John Grindler, who studied Virginia Satir and Milton Erickson, a guy who had polio twice, and he's the father of conversational hypnosis, two of my greatest role models. And they teach a lot about language. And so if you go look at the stories and the things they wrote about communication and language and substructures, I can get really deep into people's psyches, and they're like, I don't know why I'm telling you this stuff. I wouldn't even tell my mom, a therapist. I wouldn't tell God this stuff, but I know he knows. And I'm able to go in there and reframe and retwist meanings and reshape narratives in people's heads, all with language. It's just very deliberate use. And it's as simple as this. David, don't think of a blue tree. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Blue tree.
It's as simple as that. It already exists. It's a fundamental part. Everyone uses it every day. It's just that I'm aware of it, and I've spent so much time mastering it that it just comes second nature. I just know what to say because I don't get in my head about things. I don't need you or anybody to know who I am for me to know who I am. That's why I hate social media. People see a 60-second snapshot of someone's life, but it's what they want you to see. Like when people go to conferences and take pictures in front of cars that aren't theirs and try to showboat. Dude, you made all of $103,000 last year. Please stop.
Yeah, no, and hopefully it's shifted a little bit more to embracing the imperfections, I think, because more people realize that the authenticity and you being you is more important when it comes to the social side. Obviously it can be used for that trust, but yeah, if you get a short snapshot, like if I see 30 seconds of Mason, how much do I know about Mason in those 30 seconds, right? Especially if it's a very calculated thing that Mason wants to show.
And that's the only thing I post on social media. I, like everyone else, I wouldn't say I'm sloppy. Certainly I post some personal opinions on stuff just because I know it'll get engagement. But I post what I want others to see on there. And my personal details, well, those are my personal details.
Absolutely. And I know we were talking around the taking, and we've talked about the mindset behind it. We've talked about the language, and one of the things kind of want to explore a little bit is like the concept of buyers connecting to identity, which you started tapping in and talking a little bit about, not just the product. So you mentioned people follow leaders who reflect who they want to become. How do agents tap into that?
You have to be fascinating, not just interesting to your audience. When they go to sleep, they should be wondering, what is Mason VanMeter doing? They want to live vicariously through you because they know they're not willing to take the risk that you are. And so as an insurance agent, you're going to have to embody all the beliefs. And this is why trust is so important. My main concept I teach is environments of trust. If you look at the quote, people hate feeling sold, but they love to buy. Why is all the training in this industry on the first half of that equation that customers hate? Sales training. I teach insurance agents how to create environments that make people feel like buying. Never heard anyone else say that. Because that's where all the money's made. It's where the least competition is. Because most people aren't smart enough to figure it out. They don't want to think. And if you're not willing to think, you'll be governed by someone who is willing to think, because thinking is hard. And so you begin blending yourself into their life. They can see themselves inside of you. This is why Hollywood movies use a lot of isomorphism. You see yourself in Harry Potter, in Iron Man, in Spider-Man, and Hulk. They are character archetypes that you can see yourself in. Life is a big story. It's a big movie. And at the end of it, how do you want to be remembered? And so I try to blend as much familiarity, because that makes you trustworthy. The more you reflect back to them that you are like them, the more trustworthy you are automatically. Because for them to reject you, they would have to reject themselves. And I know once I can engineer that into a sales environment, they have to give me money, or else they're not who they say they are. And they will toss and they'll turn and they say, should I do this tonight? Should I listen to Mason? And I'm telling you, you will not get a good night's sleep until you resolve that. It's very powerful. It's very powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And do you think this is something like, is this like a lifelong journey for agents to
100%.
use and be able to leverage? Like how much studying, implementation, like studying and applying, learning and positioning around that do agents need to do to be able to effectively start implementing that? Or is that something like, learning from someone who is a master can help them kind of speed to being able to practically apply it?
Like, the reason why coaching is so powerful is because the fact that I can go give Russell Brunson $50,000 and learn from him in 3 days what would take me 3 lifetimes to do myself. And so I'm happy to give him 50 grand. And people say, you spent 50 grand on information. I'd say, why the hell didn't you? You'll spend 50 grand on a car that does not pay you back. You know how many cars I can buy because I've given Russell Brunson $50,000, or Blair Warren, Dan Kennedy, Tony Robbins, Tanner Chittister, Alan all these great people. Alan Sultanic, another great marketer, another great person. Clayton Make, fantastic groups. The fact that I can just go browse like I'm at Walmart and say, I want to learn this from you and this from you and this from you. It's very powerful because I get to shortcut my life experience, and I just get to do things right the first time. What's that worth? What's that worth to do things right the first time? Obviously worth everything. So that's a really huge piece of this. And you're just consolidating and compressing time. Most people think they don't make enough money. I would say you're distorting and deleting your model of the world once again. It's not that you don't make money. It's that you don't make money fast enough. $1 million over 40 years is different from $1 million in a year. If you make $1 million in 40 years, you are poor. If you make $1 million in a year, you are semi-rich. Just because $1 million is only worth about 200,000 nowadays, if you look at our economy. However, you get the point. And so to compress time is what I want to do. I don't want to, if you look at what most agents do, their phone usage on here is 12 hours a day to anesthetize themselves from not being disciplined. And they refused. Here's the thing Niccolo Machiavelli says, put chains on yourself before life puts shackles on you. They negotiate with defeat. That does not exist in my model of the world. No does not exist. Failure does not exist. You either do it or you don't. It's just feedback. Obstacles are not there to obstruct your path. They're there to instruct you on what to do next. And so it's very powerful.
It is powerful, and part of kind of leaning into the power of that, and kind of question I have for you is, what makes a message or brand cult like in a good way? I mean, we talked about how powerful, and being able to do that is extremely powerful. So, you talk about that a little bit.
What makes it cult like is when you know what keeps your audience up at night. The fact that I know
Mhm.
every female
Mhm.
insurance agent out there is scared of being seen as a taker rather than a giver. I can play with those emotional chords whenever I desire to. Whenever I desire to make money, I can go to Facebook, make a post, and email my list. And there's a 5-figure day right there guaranteed. All
Mhm.
because I know what's going on in my audience's head. And when you can enter the dialogue into your head, like the Robert Collier letter book talks about, when you know what keeps them up at night, tossing and turning at the ceiling, you can kind of play and dance with that and help them transmute that into a new story. And this is where we get into some really advanced stuff with sales, is you're always selling forward and reverse at the same time. The number one thing I teach most salespeople is, how would you treat your customers if they already bought? And they're saying, oh, that's a really great question, Mason. I'm saying, I know. Have you ever tried it? And they're saying, no. Well, go try it on your next sales call. I mean, dude, they absolutely loved it. I was like, why do you
Mm.
think they loved it? I don't know. It's like the words just can't. It's just like you tap into the source, because all sales take place in the future. And whoever can delay it the longest can have the biggest ask. It's all about masking the sales process.
Mm.
This is a really important lesson I learned from Blair Warren. If the brain can detect the sales process, the brain can reject the sales process. And if you look what that looks like on a graph, it's up, down, because your customers are in control of when they buy. So the fact I have the ability to take a complete stranger, put them in problem awareness, and walk them and ascend them through a sales process and get them to upsell with brutal predictability, it's very weird. But it all comes down to things like Blair Warren talks about: psychological ventriloquism, isolation, us versus them. H.P. Lovecraft says the easiest way to unite someone is through a common enemy.
Mm.
And so I'm willing to throw rocks at the people taking advantage of insurance agents who aren't really doing anything for their overrides, which is also why I like surrounding myself with people like you, your wife, Alex Branning, Joe Camper. It was an absolute honor, a joy, and a privilege to go hang out with you guys. It was very fun because I believe in what you guys are doing. You're very humble people. And it feels like I'm glorifying God by making connections like that. It has nothing to do with me and everything to do with him.
Mason did kick my butt in pool, though. I will just highlight that for the public to know.
I grew
So
up on a pool table.
I love pool. Well, I was like, oh, and the game's over immediately. So, but no, it was a ton of fun. We were honored to spend time with you as well and get to chat. And once again, not boring topics to talk. I hate talking about weather and boring. I know that's not what you love talking about either. And so it's always fun when you get around people that you get to have really good discussions and stuff that is like life changing and important and really how the world works. Like, spend more time around those people, and Mason's one of those, right? And and so with kind of a slight transition from that a little bit, though, like, um I want I know you have some thoughts on this and would like to cover, because I think it's relevant for a lot of people listening. Like, what mistakes do you see have agencies, but I mean agents as well, all of them together, make when trying to stand out? Like, what, obviously they realize, I want to separate myself from the crowd. I want to be the person that people do come to and work with. But what mistakes do you see of them attempting to stand out and be the person that someone works with or
I mean,
approaches
there's
in the first
lots of
place?
things. Number one, it's always a million small things. It's death by 1,000 cuts. It's weeds in the
Mm,
garden.
mm,
They'll try to be too different, and it's outrageously different. And so, because the customers have nothing to compare to, it does not feel safe because it's completely new. Sure, it feels like novelty for the people who do it, but for most people, they're saying, that looks too much like an ugly duck for me to even want to touch it. And then other ones, they try to copy what other people are doing just in a different way. So many people have tried ripping off my webinars, but the fact they're not trained in language or the through lines and how to engineer the archetypes and deliberately shift the POVs with internal dialogues. There's lots of things I'm doing in there that people have no clue about. And they just kind of blatantly rip off the copy. And it's just, it falls on deaf ears because they don't understand first principles of thinking. And a lot of these people, for what reason do they want to stand out? Because someone else told them to, or because they know deep down it's what they should do. And it's most of them, they just do what everyone else tells them to do. Stand out and be proud. And like, yeah, I'm going to go do that. But what does that mean? What does that mean? They don't take the time to ask and find purpose and meaning behind what they're doing. And so it feels wrong. So they don't see it through long enough to commit. Mm. It's too scary for them. It's too big in their head.
Love that. And coming back from that to now I remember what I want to ask you about why do you think the sales process, the typical or what's seen as sales process or what we reject as, what you mentioned, when I recognize it, I reject it, it's part of the sales process. Why do you think that is the process? How did it become our standard? How did it become this?
Well, it's human nature.
Okay.
The moment you detect a pattern, you habituate, and it does not release the dopamine and the neurochemicals that it used to. And so that pattern no longer this is why people call it chasing a high. You smoke that first cigar or joint, whatever you want to call it. And the rest of the time, you're just trying to catch up to that first dopamine spike, and you're artificially inflating it. But the thing about when you come down is the baseline is no longer right here. It's down here. And what used to feel bad now feels terrible. And so habituation and all these stimulus responses and patterns and myelination, when you reinforce a pattern, you myelinate the nerves, and it reinforces it. And so even, this is why they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Sure you can, but it's just not likely to happen because you have to spend too much time generating new neurology, which is why the number one predicator of success is the environment. Because if, I don't care how comfortable you were, you're sitting on your chair and you're like, I don't want to get up for anything. I guarantee you, if your house burns down or someone puts a gun to your kid's head, you will get up because the environment has shifted. So how do you create environments that make people feel like buying? That should be the number one question every agent asks. And how do I learn that? Who do I learn that from? So that's a huge part. And then behaviors are very interesting because we have scripts for everything, just like I said with the pilots earlier. And so the moment they go into a situation or a scenario, they load the script, and that overrides all the logic. They just go straight into energy conservation. If you look at banner ads, most people don't even notice banner ads anymore because we've trained ourselves that, hey, this is junk. I don't have to pay attention. We're great deletion creatures. We don't acknowledge that. If you're in a busy city and traffic is busy every day, it's not going to stand out because that's the normal. It's not going to make you feel some type of way. Now, when a Southerner goes from Henderson, Kentucky to San Jose, California, I'm like, what are you idiots doing over here? It's bumper to bumper. You guys are honking. You're happy to sit and move 1 mile every 40 minutes. You guys are clowns. So it's just stuff like that. My grandparents used to talk about it took an hour to bake a baked potato. Now they complain at family reunions when it takes 4 minutes in the microwave. So it's expectations. It's what you expect to happen.
Yeah. And so if the sales process and sales is based on humans, which it is, which you covered, based around neurology, sociology, and psychology, biology, all these areas together, do you view humans, these areas and these sciences, like as constants or is ever changing? And so does that mean the sales process and selling is ever changing as well, or it's something to be learned and implemented, or is it something that we're always is adapting to, essentially?
Well, it's very constant because our brains are what make our decisions for us, and they obey mental laws of the world. The law of accumulation. David, if you keep putting a bunch of garbage in your house, how fast before it fills up with a house of garbage? And so if you keep putting garbage rap, garbage movies, garbage pornography, garbage relationships, garbage leads, garbage uplines, garbage agencies, garbage. It's just garbage everywhere. And before you know it, the within becomes the without, and as above, so below, as within, so without, as Jesus said. And you're looking around, and all you see is garbage because that's all you've put in, and that's all you've trained your brain to see. And so success now is predictable as the sun rising in the east and setting in the west, David, because our brains all obey the same laws. If you or I jump, sure, we're different people and we're going to observe different things, but the law of gravity works on us both. Doesn't matter where we are, David. It doesn't matter if we agree with it. It doesn't matter if we like gravity. It doesn't matter if we know about it. If we go up, we're going to come down. The law of advancement, what goes down goes up. Down always precedes up. If you look how a plane takes off, it angles its wings down, but then it goes up. If you look how a house is built, it doesn't just slap it on the ground. They dig down, then build up on a foundation. When birds take off from their nest, they start flying down, then up. But what percent of birds learn to fly, David?
Hopefully all of them. All the living ones, yeah.
About 100%. What percent of humans learn to fly? Less than 1%. Why? Because when we fall out of our nest and go down, we grab the nearest branch and climb back into our nest of comfortability. And the thing we don't realize is that branch is just a glass rope. And we wonder why we get cut. We wonder why we have to keep buying Band-Aids and going back to that person who patched us up last time that also cut us open. It's very stupid. But at least we know the pain's comfortable. At least we know what to expect. People tell me they have a fear of failure and all this. It's not even that. It's that you don't want to be seen as a failure, but you don't want to have to deal with the consequences of being successful because you don't know what it's like to walk around with $100,000 in the bank. You don't know how people are going to treat you when you have money and they want what you have and they pretend like you were their friend their entire time. And you just don't know. And so that's scary for people. It gets very nuanced, but it's constant. When you understand the brain obeys the mental laws of the world, the law of correspondence, the law of substitution, the law of polarity. For every negative belief, there's a positive belief. When people tell me my customers hate insurance, I'm saying good. They already have energy. It just has to be reframed. You have to change the story in their head. Because someone who doesn't care about it at all, what's the opposite of love? It's apathy. It's indifference. It's not hatred. It's apathy. It's a complete hatred, still an emotion.
Yep.
And so it's easier to turn hate into love than it is to take apathy and turn it into appreciation or love. So I'd rather take customers who hate insurance. You remember Bobby Boucher, everything's the devil. That's how certain customers are
like.
The devil. And you know what? I believe life insurance is a scam until it's time for a funeral, until it's time for living benefits to be paid out, because then that's when it's useful. But up until then, you know what? I'll agree with the customer. Sure, it's a scam until you need it.
Love that. And so kind of bringing a lot of this together and what we've kind of mentioned a few times, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that presentation, the 713 policies. What did that look like? What's the story around that? Obviously an application of these things that you've talked about, but yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more around that story.
So this all had to do with a story of dynamite factories. And if you look at where the two-legged stools came from, there was a dynamite factory worker who they noticed when they fell asleep, the factories would blow up because you have to keep stirring the nitroglycerin and all that inside the TNT factory, right? And so the people kept falling asleep. This is back when stories of Mothman were going around. It's funny. But then they came out with the two-legged stools. That way, if you fell asleep, you would fall over and you would die. You'd blow up. You'd blow to hell. And this stopped factory workers from falling asleep. Don't most humans sit on a two-legged stool in a dynamite factory when it comes to finances? So I'm saying, hey, if you keep falling asleep, your family's going to blow up. And just stories like that. Once you get them to realize, and I use a lot of the law of polarity. Pain cuts twice as deep when you know the opposite pleasure. Here's how bad life is going. Your experience is you know what tens of dollars it feels like. People say, tens of dollars? Huh? But I say things that have a lot of novelty around it. But the whole concept was around the three-legged stool of wealth. And you had your three pillars. One was insurance. One was trust. That way and I got them pissed off. What do most people don't like about government? IRS taking money that they didn't earn to go blow up children in third world countries who make $1, like $1 a week. Great use of tax dollars, by the way. And people don't care. They're anesthetized. Thank God they have, for all the agents out there saying, my competition, you don't have competition with other agents. Your competition is Netflix. It's certain adult promiscuous websites. It's Rolex. It's Joe Rogan. It's where they're spending all of their attention. So why in God's green earth, why should they listen to you about insurance? And if you can't answer that, why should I, your perfect prospect, choose to listen to you over anybody else, over myself, or doing nothing at all? If you can overcome those three, congratulations, you have someone's attention. The whole goal should be to get them to consume the perspective, to consume the marketing. And so once I got them to see a certain way, because I compared wealth to the dynamite factory and what they were currently doing to what they should be doing, they saw it in their head. They saw the version of themselves that solved the problems. I treated them like they already bought. And so I have to weave in all these elements in a storyline. When I tell you that agency's phone was blowing up, they couldn't collect enough. They couldn't collect enough. The replay sales, I only counted the sales that were made in the first 90 minutes. We didn't go into any of the back-end email stuff or because they milk that presentation every single week. They get brand new leads to come in and watch me pitch to them for an hour. And they buy on autopilot. Those agents literally just have to call and collect applications. They say, Mason, you made my job very boring. Congratulations, buddy. How much money you got? So you have to be able to weave storylines together. And it's like I'm weaving fabric right in front of your very eyes. It's like magic. Those are just some of the nuances, though, without going over NDAs or anything like that.
Yeah. No, that's really, really exciting. I love these topics. I find these way more interesting than I can't afford it right now. I need to talk to myself of just treating objections versus like the entire process, the thinking, the behavior, which is what influences it all. And you reference something I know. See, you post about it and talk about it a little bit. Can you explain or highlight a little bit about what's the rule of 100? I've seen you mentioning it, talking about it. What is that?
So it's an easy way to enter my world. I think it's like a $7 or $17 thing that I built.
Okay.
It's something I used when I got tired of forking over money for leads that have been passed around more than certain people. And I just got tired. So I wanted to be able to go take a complete stranger and walk them through a sales process all through Messenger. And so I built the rule of 100, Alex. And why I called it the rule of 100, it's because Alex Hormozy calls it the rule of 100. You can do 100 reach outs, 100 minutes of content creation, or $100 a day in ad spend a day, and just be consistent with it. And what I found was for every 100 messages I send, I get 20 to 30 responses, 5 to 10 sales calls booked a day, 1 to 3 sales made a day. And you can just buy your way out of the hole because all the money I make from that goes right back into ads or anything like that. But once they mix the thing is, once you come through my funnels, it's like something just reaches out and pulls you in. You're like, $47. Sure, I'll add this to my order. $197. Sure, I'll add this to, you know what? Sure, I'll add this to my order too. And then $497. What a great deal, Mason. Thank you so much. And they add that to one, and it's like, did I just spend $902 from a $17 initial? I was like, what? How'd they do that? And that's the thing is when I show people how I did that to them, they get scared because they're like, I had a girl join my coaching program the other day and I showed her how I sold her. And it scared the ever living hell out of her. I had to refund her money. Like full honesty, this is very deep stuff. It's very influential stuff.
Yeah.
So the rule of 100, you send these messages to complete strangers. And it's so weird. You say words out of your mouth on a keyboard and strangers buy policies from you. It's very weird. It's very weird.
So eye-opening. Yeah, but you're right. It's weird to think about, right? And people don't take the time to stop, think about it, or study it like you have, right? But but why not? Right? Like, it would be the most important thing to think about. And I think that's the point one of the points you're making, right? It's like, why are we chilling on Netflix versus studying the things that affect our lives and the current state of it? So,
Because it feels better to not do anything, but people don't realize doing nothing has consequences too. And they'll be forgotten. They'll essentially have never lived. And it brings me to something that the rule of 100 is very interesting. I've done non-videos on YouTube, all about an hour a piece, breaking down the math. I tried every different scenario in my head to find where buying leads made any logical sense on a long enough time horizon. And you know what? People either broke even or lost money, even if they wrote 30 or 40K a month, simply because they spent so much money on leads and all the money they were looking for were in the pockets of the people that they have not sold. And so I had to come up with the analogy that sums this up into a bitter, cute, clever catchphrase or whatever you want to call it. All you're doing by buying leads is paying money to increase the number of people, not giving you any of theirs. Sounds very stupid when you ask that. Yeah, I went to a group of agents the other day. I said, would you guys go pay someone to give you contact information to people who never bought from you? They said, no. I said, hang on, David, you're telling me you would never give money to someone who gave you a list of people to sell them products and they never bought from you? You wouldn't do that? No, Mason, are you stupid? Quit asking me that question. And I said, well, aren't you buying leads from a lead vendor and most of the leads don't close? They're like, huh. So I put a lot of people in incongruity because the moment I get them to realize they're not being who they say they are, they have to change. And the best compliment I've ever gotten is, Mason, your questioning is like me looking out a window and seeing the entire world. So I'll take that. That's something I'll put on my tombstone. So fantastic. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you so much, Mason. And one last question. And like we talked about prior to this, I would love to do some more like long form content, and we can really go into some of these discussions more in depth at some point. But as far as for today, what in a quick takeaway for agents? I mean, obviously there's so many and so much, and honestly a lifelong of journey of takeaways and things to apply from this and what to study. But what do you see as one of the fastest ways for an agent to go from being seen as a taker to being seen as a trusted guide?
This is very easy. You go to other people's audiences. I built this thing called the Insta referral method I taught the other week, where I show you the exact scripts, the contracts, what type of products and content to make. You give it to influencers between 500 to a certain number of followers. Don't go above it. And it's so weird. They just make pitches to their own audience, edifying you, selling you, and the sales just come in. They book calls with you because they already have no like and trust with that audience owner, the list owner. And the moment I stopped doing that, my ads became essentially free. And the ROAS, like the return on ad spend, so to speak, tripled overnight from this one shift. So go to people who already have audiences. Life's too short for you to go build your own most of the time. So
I love that. Maybe the power of strategic referral partners and influence.
Not even just referral partners, but go find someone who sells supplements and saying, hey, you're all healthy people, but your income's unhealthy or your retirement's unhealthy. Come get this policy. It doesn't matter. Just find someone who's not in not in conflicting markets, and let them pitch you.
Love that. Guys, hopefully you've taken away so much from this and so much notes. I know I have. Mason, for those that want to follow you, plug into what you're doing, connect, where's the best place for them to find you?
Go to MasonVanMeter.com. Go opt into my new email sequence. There's a story of 10 emails that people have told me, Mason, I just spent 4 hours reading your emails. What in the world? It's the craziest stuff. David's actually a character in one of my emails. You did not know that until now. Alex Branding is a character in my email. It's a make-believe world that you get lost in, but it's very cool. I've never seen anyone else do this. Especially, it's called the insurance industry's most unusual welcome email. It's very funny. If you have any questions, I recommend you just message me on Facebook. I'm not going to respond to any text messages, anything like that. You can go get the Rule of 100 at writemorepolicies.com/Rule of 100. But just shoot me a Facebook message, because most of you are probably never going to follow through on my products. And I don't want the moment I take your money, I'm responsible for you, and I don't want that. So if you're a pretender, stay away. If you're a producer, reach out. Mason VanMeter on Facebook. I'm sure you'll have all my links down below.
Yep. We will get them all included in the show notes, guys. So if you guys want the show notes as well as the links and where to find Mason and everything we put together for you guys, go to jumpstartgonow.com/podcast and go follow and get in touch with Mason. I really appreciate Mason. Thank you once again for coming on here, just sharing just the tip of the iceberg on these topics that are so critical. And I look forward to diving into them more. And thanks everybody for listening and joining us on the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.